Hey everybody, welcome back to 2 Hours on a Sunday. I'm Nick.
And I'm Brian.
And today we are jumping back in time 65 million years to the Cretaceous period. That's right, we're going to be talking about one of our childhood obsessions, dinosaurs. And the movie Dinosaur.
And the movie. All movies. We're talking about everything.
Everything
That's the
related
main
to
focus.
dinosaurs.
But
Exactly.
everything related to dinosaurs. We brought on today a recurring guest of the podcast, Ian, because he is probably the biggest dinosaur fan of all three of us.
I was pretty into it. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the reason why I was a dinosaur fan.
I think it was a trickle-down effect. It was like
It just kind of
Ian
worked
to Brian, Brian to me.
Good to know.
You're
that
like, you love dinosaurs. Well, then I love dinosaurs. Well, then you're going to love dinosaurs. We're all going to love dinosaurs.
I think there's always a point in a child's life that dinosaurs are a big thing.
Yeah.
You know why?
Why?
I think because they were real.
Yeah, it's mythological. It's a fairy tale, but then you find out it's not a fairy tale. Like these things existed.
Exactly. And did you guys have like action figures? Did you have like posters?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Brian, you have a poster literally behind you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had all the like I got into it really early because I watched Jurassic Park pretty much when it came out. So I was like 3.5, 4, terrified, but then like became obsessed with them. So yeah, like right from when I was really little, I had all of the Jurassic Park ones, but then also just, the millions of generic dinosaur toys and stuff. Yeah.
The ones that were just like statue toys. They didn't move or anything.
They didn't do anything. It was just a little figure made out of like rubbery plastic, and they all had sharp teeth because it was like based off of the toy that they made in the 40s or 50s or something. But yeah, still worked. I knew that stegosaurus didn't eat other dinosaurs, so it's all good.
Oh yeah, I had a similar figure of a stegosaurus with like massive carnivore teeth.
Yeah.
That just it doesn't make sense now, but you see it in your head and you're like, that's okay.
That's how we choose up the leaves, guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're just really well. I mean, they were prehistoric leaves. They were probably pretty tough.
Yeah.
He did need those.
But Ian's obsession, like having all of his Jurassic Park toys, definitely put that on me growing up. I was like, I need all the dinosaur toys because I watched Jurassic Park when I was about 4 years old, probably 97.
Probably right when the second one came out. Yeah.
Right when the second one came out. We're 2.5 years apart. So he was already ahead of the game. But I had a Jurassic Park tent when I was watching. I remember specifically had this tent when I would watch the movie, but then I would hide in it because of the raptor scenes. And I couldn't get past the kitchen scene when I was young.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and then eventually the third movie came out and it was just, you got to watch all three.
Yeah.
Yes. I think Jurassic Park for me was also my first introduction to dinosaurs, but yeah, it was the same as you, Brian. It was probably 97 when I watched it. We rented it on VHS because I didn't have it at the time. I have it now.
VHS, what's that?
Right? I don't know.
I have it on VHS.
Really... Yeah, you would literally have VHS behind you.
Yeah. And yeah, that kitchen scene was just the scariest thing, and it's still like a masterclass in suspense and tension. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's still the best dinosaur movie ever made.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah. I would go Jurassic Park 1 and then Jurassic World 1.
Ooh.
I am going to agree with you with the caveat that I personally liked The Lost World because it hit right at that moment where I was like, already really liked them from the first movie, but now I'm actually old enough to like get into it. So The Lost World I watched 1,000 times, and now having seen it as an adult, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's not as good as I remember, but that was the one that I watched so many times that I'd say, yeah, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, but like asterisk Lost World.
Yeah. I think it's third in my book. Like,
yeah, it would absolutely be.
Yeah.
I would say it's tied for second.
Yeah,
if anything.
Was The Lost World the one where the doc is dreaming? I can't. What's his name?
That's the third movie.
Oh, in the dinosaur face.
Alan.
Yeah.
Alan.
That is still
That's
one of
the
my
third
favorite
one.
scenes.
No, the second one is it's Ian Malcolm is the lead.
That's right.
Which is why it's his favorite
one.
Because
It's like, okay, so this is an awesome movie. Also, the lead character is me. So we'll take that.
We'll take it. But on top of Jurassic Park, I think the 90s was just a renaissance for dinosaur movies.
Dinosaurs like crazy, yeah.
And for me, other than Jurassic Park, my childhood was just filled with Land Before Time.
Mhm.
And it hit me right at the right time because the first one was like 89, I believe, somewhere around there.
Yeah, you didn't
But
see that one in
then,
theaters.
no. But then I had them all on VHS. But then the second, number 2 all the way to 10, they were like every year.
Yeah,
They
just
went
came
from
out
like a
clockwork.
serious, they went from a serious story to, a kid's movie with musical numbers.
Mhm.
I ate it up. All 10. I got them all.
I remember going to your house and we would be playing Pokemon and we would have those movies on in the background.
playing.
Yeah.
I don't remember them very well because I was focused on the Game Boy, but I remember them always being on. We would always put one of those on.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Spider-Man or
Turtles.
later on is Turtle. Yeah, exactly. So that's how I remember those movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ian, did you watch any of the Land Before Times?
I watched the first one a couple times because I would borrow it from Graham and Grandpa, and then I did same as Nick. Like I remember watching them at your house, but I only remember explicitly the first and maybe second one.
Yeah.
When did Chomper show up?
That was the second one.
Time of Great
Giving.
I remember the first and the second one really well. I watched those quite a few times. After that, I never really watched them explicitly besides just like having them on.
I think you may have watched the third one because it had the raptors.
Okay, yeah, I did see that because I seem to
raptors
remember
and the
seeing
lava.
the first three. Yeah. Okay. After that, not as much, but
The fourth one I didn't like as much because of the villains. I think it was the fourth. It could have been the fourth or the fifth. I think the fifth was Mysterious Island. When they went to the island, there was like the shark, and they met Chomper on his island.
okay.
And it was almost like the what was the big dinosaur in Jurassic World?
Like the
Indominus Rex.
Mosasaur or Indominus?
The Indominus Rex. It looked like the Indominus Rex, but then the fourth one, it had like an alligator villain with like a bat, I think, or some kind of version of a dinosaur bat. But they kind of terrified me, so I didn't really like it. But then there was a couple other ones, Stone of Cold Fire, and then the number 8 was Big Freeze. That was one of my favorites.
I might have watched some of that one with you because that sounds familiar.
The titles of these movies sound like modern day book series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
The titles were great because then the cover always told you what was going to be happening.
Yeah.
But they were a great time. But then, Ian, you and I share a very similar story growing up with Grandma and Grandpa having their store and renting movies from
free
them.
rentals.
Free rentals.
But it was also very like select. So like you didn't realize any other movies existed besides these ones. So
yes,
we would take them a bunch, but it was like, oh, wow, I don't even know how we found this. But I think I know where you're going with this.
Yes.
Because this was on my list too.
And then eventually they had it all at their house. So we just went into their garage and they had a stack of them there. But there's a cartoon called Denver, the Last Dinosaur.
The Last Dinosaur. He's my friend and a whole lot more.
This theme song goes so hard.
Yeah, it's so good.
Because it was like the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, so everything was a rock and roll theme song.
Yeah, it was just ripped.
Yeah, it ripped.
Turned out that like discovered this way later in life. It was not like a movie per se. It was like a TV series that we just happened to watch 1 or 2 episodes of and thought that they were movies.
Yeah, because the VHS had 2 episodes.
Yeah, so I'm thinking this is just like a weird movie series. It's like, no, this is just like episode 5 and 6 of the series. That's just all we had.
Fun fact, I found it a couple months ago and I have the whole series on DVD.
I would like to watch that whole thing because I've really only seen I saw 3 episodes.
There's 50.
There's what?
Yeah, there's 50 episodes.
Oh wow.
Where did this air? Because I remember the dinosaur.
I don't know. We never watched it on TV.
I don't think it was. I think it was probably off the air by the 90s. I think it came on late 80s. It's only like the 1 season, right?
88.
So
yeah.
50 episodes.
That's
holy moly.
Yeah. And these aren't like Bluey episodes where they're 2.5 minutes. These are actual
20-minute episodes.
Yeah.
And then on top of Denver the Last Dinosaur, there was a movie I rented all the time from Grandma and Grandpa. And to this day, no one knows what I'm talking about other than one person. Her name's Valerie. She works at Cinema One. So I get all my movies from her.
Yeah.
But I brought it up the other day because we were talking about dinosaurs and she loves dinosaurs. And I said, Adventures in Dinosaur City. And anytime I brought this up to anybody else, they don't know what I'm talking about. I was like, and knew immediately.
And
I
I
was
can't
like, yeah,
believe that I never got it from their house. If
they had it
there,
because it's about these two kids who go underground, and they like these dinosaur people, and they're in like full costumes, and like they go through this whole adventure. But that's the only thing I can remember from the movie is that there's talking human dinosaurs and they have clothes on and stuff.
Which
but
sounds
no one knows
like
what I'm talking
Dinosaur,
about.
the TV show, but it wasn't, obviously.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah.
But then there was also Prehysteria.
Okay, I think, is that the one where they play goofy golf with the little tiny dinosaurs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know what it was called, but I remember the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. They had so many good ones. But then another one of my favorites, Ian, I sent you a picture of this because they're putting it out on Blu-ray in like a month. But it's I just lost it. Extreme Dinosaurs.
Oh yeah, the show.
Yeah, the show, the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Ninja Turtles set off the cartoon extravaganza of Teams of Four.
Teams of four of animal people.
Yeah.
Like, because then also there was the biker mice from Mars.
Yeah. And you had Street Sharks.
Street Sharks.
I love Street Sharks. I have that on Blu-ray as well. But yeah, Extreme Dinosaurs also had a rock and roll intro. The show shredded, but it was also after your time, Ian. So this was...
I'm familiar with the idea of it, but yeah, I never watched it.
Yeah.
I was into
93.
the serious live action Lost World by then.
You were a couple years ahead, but all the animated stuff in the 90s, I just took it in. I soaked it all up, and I was like, this is my life for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I think you knew every single dinosaur, right, Ian?
Well, yeah, because I like to, not just like, once I started watching the movies, I actually was reading all of like these literal education books and like learning them all. And I had a really good memory when I was younger, not as much now, but I could just like read them all and I would memorize all these extremely difficult names. Oh yeah, of course that was Pachycephalosaurus. Like, so.
And you're like, it was part of this Cretaceous period.
Yeah, this is when it lived and this is what it was part of and it was related to these ones and yeah.
And that's where I got all my knowledge from. And then I had some of the big dinosaur books that you would flip through and had all the names of the characters. Back then when they made those giant 2-foot books.
Yeah, they were enormous.
Yep.
It's like, how am I supposed to flip through this?
Ian, what's your favorite dinosaur? I guess back then and now, if it's not the same.
Yeah, I have to go with Dilophosaurus was always my favorite. I love that guy. He was so cool in the movie. I think that was the part that terrified me the most when I watched it as a child. So naturally, that was the one that became my favorite. And I mean, Brachiosaurus, you can't beat that iconic scene, but mostly just that scene is why I like it.
Right.
Yeah, that whole introduction.
Okay, refresh me again. Dilophosaurus, that's not the one with the frills.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it is.
So that's the one where it spits the acid, which it didn't really do, but that was still cool. But yeah, like the little chirps.
Yes.
How much of a slap in the face, Ian, was it in the final Jurassic Park Dominion where Chris Pratt's character just grabbed it by the throat and just threw it?
Yeah. Was not liking that at all.
No.
Or in the one before, even at the beginning, they're in the jungle and you get the sound of it, and I'm like, okay, I'm stoked, it's going to show up, and then it didn't come out. Then the T-Rex just comes out. But like, you put the sound on. Clearly, you were teasing it.
Yeah.
But, no.
Nick, what was your experience with dinosaurs?
Oh man. Well, like I said, I got a lot from when we hung out, so it was like watching passively Land Before Time. My intro was essentially Jurassic Park and just being amazed by that initial revelation of all the dinosaurs in the park. And beyond that, it wasn't until really like Dinosaur, the movie, came out that I really started to get into it, because it was a Disney movie. We always had Disney movies at home. So we watched, I think my parents got it or we rented it, and I watched it, and I watched it so many times. And then I started to get those books about dinosaurs, the big ones, or even just like the educational ones that you'd flip through and look at the pictures and see where they're from, what era they're from.
Did those books, did they have it like the subscription service where you get them in the mail? Like the animal ones? Did you ever do that?
Back? Oh yeah, like a real subscription.
Yeah. I think so. I don't think we got that. It was mostly during
the book fairs,
the Scholastic Book Fair. Yes, or I got things for like a birthday or Christmas. before we got into like more video games like GameCube. So before like 2002, 2003, it was mostly like dinosaur books all the time.
There was a computer game that I absolutely loved, and I don't know if you played this, Ian, but this is another one of those things where I didn't know what the game was called, but I could just tell you what was
Yeah.
happening. There was a blue little dinosaur, and you had to collect eggs. But the game is called Dinosaur 3D. And it's like you had to
it was
hatch all
based
these.
off of the movie.
It wasn't. It was just
Oh
called
no, just
Dinosaur
Oh.
because it was a
no.
3D game, but it was like they didn't want to make it like a 2D thing for
Mhm.
like games because it was a computer game. But the whole thing is the blue dinosaur, and you have to collect all these eggs to hatch to the younglings. So you have to collect all like 9 and do all these mini games. I was obsessed with that one forever
Oh no, I never played it.
because Ian, for those of you who don't know, Ian never saw a dinosaur.
Yes,
In the year
I
2000.
totally missed it.
Yeah.
I don't remember my exact mindset because I was a little younger, but I think it was some mix of like, oh, I'm too old for Disney now. Like, and I think I thought it was like a cartoon, not like a live action animation. And it's like, oh, they're just trying to be Jurassic Park. I want like it's fake Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But it wasn't
Yeah.
at all. But I think that once that idea, like I dismissed it initially and then I just never thought about it again.
Because you were 10, right?
I would have been 10 or 11 when it came out.
Yeah, 2000.
And I was big into Star Wars then because episode
Yeah.
1 had just come out. So
Yes.
I was like super into Star Wars, all Star Wars. So
We're like,
yeah.
sorry, dinos, you're taking a
Sorry,
back
you
seat.
can't do it. Darth Maul just ignited both lightsabers.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Duel
game
of
over,
Fates
man.
just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we were very spoiled in terms of the content made for kids in terms of big blockbuster movies.
Mhm.
Dinosaur and The Phantom Menace. Are you kidding me? Like those
Mhm.
that is just like childhood nostalgia right there.
And that was just a regular year.
Yeah.
It's not like that was like some crazy year of the best releases ever. That was just the kind of stuff that came out all the time.
Exactly.
I saw Dinosaur in theaters.
Did you
Did you
really?
see
Yes,
it
I
with,
saw it with
Jesse?
Jesse.
Yeah,
I
figured.
definitely saw it with Jesse because I feel immediately after that he got all the toys.
Yeah.
So and then McDonald's had like a thing where they had like the puppets and stuff, and they had a bunch of those. But yeah, we were playing with those dinosaur toys forever because they had the button on the back. You know, they always had those buttons.
The
You can
action
like move the
button.
head or
Yeah.
make the sounds. And
Yeah.
so we
I
had
love
like
the
an
Jurassic
Aladar.
Park ones like that.
Yeah, I had a massive Carnotaurus.
Oh,
I still
that's
have it. It's at my mom's house. But yeah, that had like a battery pack to make the sounds. But that movie I watched on loop.
Yep. I remember shortly after the movie came out, or whenever it was, they released the ride at Disney
Yeah.
World.
I was
Disney
just watching
Animal
some
Kingdom.
featurettes and they were saying how they were like tying that intentionally into the movie so that
Yes.
yeah, you could go and see it.
And that was like one of my favorite rides to go on. I think I asked my parents to go on it like 2 or 3 times in the same day because it was just so like you're in this buggy thing that takes you back in time and you go through this dark ride. You're in like the jungle and you're getting chased by all these dinosaurs. And then the Carnotaurus is just right in front of you and the big animatronic head just like drops down on you. It was really scary the first couple times I went on it, but you got used to it after, and it's just like I still remember going on that ride. I don't know if it's still there, but I'd be very happy to see it if I went back.
Because you went to Disney like every year.
We went quite a lot. Yes,
Yeah.
very fortunate.
I've never even been in Disney World, but I
No,
didn't go to
me neither.
Universal
No.
till I was like 15 or 16. But then they had the Jurassic Park ride. So that was my version of the
Yeah.
dinosaur ride because the Jurassic Park ride, you got in one of those, it was on water. So it was like you were in one of those, it wasn't
the
the Jeep,
boats.
it was in
Yeah.
a boat, and you like
Yeah.
go through the doors of Jurassic Park and the music plays,
That's
and you
so
could
cool.
hear all the forest sounds like in the movie. Then these animatronic dinosaurs would come out. They look so real, and like they'd be eaten, or like the Brachiosaurus would come out of the water and like shoot out of the top of its
Mhm.
head, and then you get to the T-Rex at the end, and it would like come down, but then that's when the ride would dip and you would get soaked. They changed it now to Jurassic World,
Oh,
Oh,
did
but
they?
I've
Yeah.
never been on that
That
one.
makes sense.
They've updated it a bit.
That water scene, I remember that was, I think, one of the first times when I was like doing a bunch of like finding out all these deleted scenes and stuff when I was a kid. It's like, oh, there was like a whole part they cut that it's supposed to be like where they're on this raft and going down the river.
Oh, for Jurassic Park?
Yeah, like not cut from the movie. It was in the book. And then
Gotcha.
like it never made it into the movie. Like there was supposed to be a whole
Yes.
part where Alan and the kids were on a raft going down the river and there was all those dinosaurs. Like that part was kind of supposed to be in the story originally.
That would have been
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
I read Jurassic Park, I'd say 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, and it's quite a bit different than the movie.
Very different. Yeah. I read in university thinking it was going to be kind of the same. And yeah.
It's more of that thriller, dark feel rather than the adventure that the movie is. I think they did an amazing job with the movie. Very good choices for omitting a lot of that stuff. Because even like Hammond gets like attacked by the
very
zombies
different
or something, and
it was a much darker, more adult, like sort of the ending. A lot of stuff didn't go right. Most people died.
It was not a happy ending for anybody. And
but was it a good read?
It was good, but I think the whole time I was filtering it through the lens of the movie and just thinking, well, that's weird. Why are you doing that?
That's not right.
The characters are definitely not the same. Like Hammond is still a very kind of arrogant man with lots of money, but he's actually quite
he's
evil.
Not nice. Yeah.
He's not a nice guy at all. He has that like same cover of he's always smiling. He's an old man. He's a grandpa, but everything else is just really scumbag. So reading it, you have to go in thinking this is a different story with the same characters, similar characters. Sorry.
Gotcha.
And it's interesting that they like, it's not like the original writer, he was involved as far as I know with the creation of the movie. So
Michael Crichton was, I think, like
he was a screenwriter or something like that. No, I think Coep was a screenwriter. I don't remember exactly, but either way,
he did have a
he was in there. So it's not like they took his work and totally changed it. He was okay with saying, this is not going to work for the screen.
Yeah.
Because you did have to make it for kind of all audiences.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a big mistake if they made it just as it was in the book or just for adults. I think it would have missed a generation.
Well, the rating, they would have probably not made as much money.
No.
Exactly. Yep.
Even just the way the story was told, like it was kind of like a little disjointed in the book.
Yeah, because back then they relied heavily on, even though it was successful in the theater, like VHS sales
would really drive.
Even if it didn't do well in the theaters, companies would be like, "Don't worry, we'll make $1 million just."
That was the time of the direct to videos like movie. They would just skip the theater and make their money.
Make all their money. Yeah. But Ian, from a dinosaur enthusiast when you were young, to kind of, I don't think there was ever a point where you took a break from being a dinosaur fan.
No, I always liked them, but
but it's like Pokemon with you. You were kind of like in.
I think part of it's more reasonable with dinosaurs because like a lot of the stuff is aimed at kids intentionally. Yes. So like as I got older, it's not that I was like, oh, I don't like dinosaurs. I was like, I don't care to watch or do any of this because I'm not a kid, but I still think Dilophosaurus is sick and I still want to be a velociraptor. Like if I'm playing Smash Brothers, I'm going to pick Yoshi because he's a dinosaur. Like that kind of stuff. It's not that I stopped liking it. It was just the way that interest took effect was impacted by how society was putting out that content.
Now I'm not going to say the name because I can't remember it because I don't have the knowledge I did. But in Jurassic World 2, you also loved the dinosaur that had the stone head that headbutted things a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So Stygimoloch is the one that they had in the movie. I loved Pachycephalosaurus, which is a bigger guy. He didn't have all the horns, but I really liked him too. Yeah. I don't know why. I think I just like that scene in Lost World where he gets angry and knocks the door.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm not taking this.
Because you had the toy as well.
Yeah. And he was the one who would put his head down and run into stuff. Yeah.
That's how I knew all your favorite dinos. If you had the toy versions of
them.
That
was the one I had to get.
Yeah.
But recently, you went to Toronto and you visited the Jurassic Park.
Yes. Museum. And that was actually really cool.
What?
So what it was is it's not really like a ride. It's like an experience where you are pretending that you are going to Jurassic World. and they have like a couple animatronics set up, but like not as a like a ride thing, as a like, this is the pen where the Brachiosaurus is. We're going to feed him now, sort of thing. Like, yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, we took our son, and he really, really liked it. They aim it a lot at kids, but like you could definitely enjoy it as an adult as long as you let that immersion sort of happen. So you walk in, and they're like, all right, here's your boarding pass. We're going to get on the boat. You drive over, you walk in, they open the gates. There's a giant brachiosaur right there. Like, it's 25 feet high. You're just seeing the neck and up. Like, yeah,
Wow.
it was cool. And like all the actors are like committed to the bit. Like, you go into this is the breeding lab where we have the raptors, and they bring out the little baby raptor for you to pet, and it's trying to bite at you and stuff. And yeah, it was really cool. And then
Brian,
at the
you want to
end,
meet me in Toronto?
Yeah. Because when Ian sent me pics after the fact, and I was like, I didn't even know this existed. I'm going.
They didn't advertise it a ton. Like, you would, I mean, I don't watch a lot of regular TV, but you would have thought that something was up. But we just saw like some stuff on Facebook where it would be an ad that says Jurassic Park Experience, Mississauga. We're like, what is this?
Yeah.
I think it's a thing that they intend to do other places. This was the first one though that they've done anywhere.
That's so cool.
But I think it's like a moving show. So it was set up in Toronto for 4 months or whatever, and then it tore down, and then it's going to go somewhere else. So
that's cool though.
The
animatronics look good. Like,
the animatronics look really good. Yeah, I mean, you really only saw a couple of them. Like, there was the Brachiosaur, which was good, but didn't have a lot of movement, but it still looked really good. There was a Stegomaloch, but you only saw a bit of its head. Like, they were smart in the way, like, it was trying to escape a truck, so you would just see it like pop up a little bit.
That's cool.
And mostly you would just see the motion of the truck, sort of thing. The smaller, like the raptor, the baby one, was a puppet. The bigger one was kind of iffy, but I could see what they were going for. It was a person inside like a weird sort of costume. Mm-hmm. But I get what they were going
Universal.
for. Yeah, it's same one. Yeah. The Rex was really cool. So at the end there was a giant semi-animatronic, like puppet Rex, which was pretty cool.
Now, speaking of animatronics, Ian, I sent you the other day.
That's the Rex. But that one looked better than when I saw it.
Gotcha.
The one I saw it moved a lot slower. So I don't know if they've just improved it, but it looked like the same thing, same setup. Yeah.
Nick, this dinosaur, I'll send you the video later. This looks so real. Like, it was on a rig so that it was on wheels. But like when it moved, the feet would like plant.
It was like they had the gears timed so that it would like look like it was walking. It was actually really cool. This one you couldn't see its feet, so they might have adjusted it. Yeah, you could.
And then it would lift up and roar. But like you could see his skin like jiggle when he roared and stuff. And I was like,
that's so sick.
We're getting to a point. Dinosaurs are becoming real.
Yeah,
it's just straight up. It's actually there.
Yeah, and then the Universal, you could go like for Jurassic Park, the section. Like, they had the raptor tamer, but then there was the raptor in the suit. But like, he would like jump out at you, so he would kind of scare you. But you can go into the Jurassic Museum, and you go in there. They have all the full-fledged skeletons and the amber sections. You can go over to certain booths, and they have like the footprint, and then you can press a button, and it would do the roar, and it would tell you things about them.
That part was at the Mississauga, but not the skeletons, just the amber.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
Could you get like they had merchandise? Could you get one of those mosquitoes?
Oh yeah, no, they didn't have the mosquitoes in Toronto. They mostly just had a million little blue plushies. Yeah, no, actually the merch was a little underwhelming. Yeah. I was expecting to be a ton, and they had like magnets and a couple T-shirts, a couple like regular Funko Pops, and like 10,000 Blue the Raptor plushies, which obviously we got one, but I was hoping for a Dilophosaurus.
Yeah. They definitely, you got to go to Universal, and that's where they got all the good dinosaur stuff, because they don't have to move around, right? They could just have all their merch there. Yeah, and they got all the Jurassic Park T-shirts, all the Jurassic Park like the binoculars and stuff. They have all that stuff there. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
that's sick.
Yeah, one of those days you gotta
make it there. Yeah, gotta hit Disney and Universal
because now you get the upgraded. I mean, the Jurassic World park ride was so cool. But they've updated a smidge for Jurassic World, but you still get the full experience of walking through. Like, all the ground is covered in like hay, so it's kind of like
you're like really in the park.
Yeah, it's like dirty and stuff, and there's trees and dens for the dinos and a museum you go to, and it's pretty cool. It was one of my favorite parts of Universal, other than obviously Harry Potter. But Jurassic Park, I feel, set the tone for every movie that had dinosaurs in it, because Steven Spielberg, during that era of the 90s, he greenlit everything that had a dinosaur in it. He was executive producer on Land Before Time, and there was another animated movie that came out the same year as Jurassic Park in the fall, which was a movie called We're Back, a dinosaur story. It's based off a kid's book, but I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Book. I've seen it a couple times.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I think you showed me the VHS one time and that was it.
Yeah, but that movie definitely was at Grandma and Grandpa's house, Ian.
Yeah,
because I think that's where we both first watched it before I even owned the movie.
What's that movie about?
So basically, there's two professors. One is called New Eyes, who's the good guy, and then there's one called Screw Eyes, his brother, who's the bad guy.
Are they related?
Yeah, they're brothers.
Okay.
But one's evil because he has got a screw in his eye.
Of course.
An actual literal screw.
And New Eyes, his whole plan is he created this cereal in order to give animals intelligence.
What?
So at the beginning of the movie, he comes down on this spaceship.
Very
and there's
realistic.
There's this little, I don't even know, animated figure creature bug that he has with him that talks.
Yeah, some little,
Yeah, and he finds
sort of thing.
These real dinosaurs. So they're scary looking. But then he captures Rex and then feeds him this cereal. And he turns all goofy and bubbly and fun looking. He goes from hard edges to a Barney the dinosaur.
Yeah, very soft.
And he's very intelligent. He can speak now. He's voiced by John Goodman.
Oh, cool.
Yep. And he meets all these other dinos because the movie actually starts out with him as the good dinosaur. He's golfing. Okay. He's on a golf course, and he's what Ian was doing. He was singing around.
He's just kind of singing to himself.
And he meets these birds, and they were like, "Oh, how did you get like this?" And then it goes back in time. He's like, "Oh, we have to go back millions of years ago," kind of thing. And it kicks off with his little introduction. But he goes onto the spaceship as a newly intelligent dinosaur, and he meets these other dinos. We got one of my favorites is Woog. I'm Woog. He talks like that all the time, and he's like, "You want a hot dog?" That's her favorite thing. They eat a bunch of hot dogs. And then there's another one named Dweeb. I'm Dweeb. He talks like that. And then
I think that one's a Parasaurolophus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the pterodactyl is Elsa. And basically they meet these two kids. They basically fall. There's one kid who's TJ Detweiler from Recess. He's just a troublemaker, but he has a good heart. And then he meets this girl. They're about the same age, around age 10. And they go on this journey together, and there's a part in the middle where there's a musical number. Because for a kid's movie, you always have to have at least one musical number.
Something they can sing along to.
Roll Back the Rock. It's a jam. Anything in the 90s that had a rock and roll bass to it. They're going through on this parade. And the villain's plot in this whole movie is basically he doesn't think there's enough fear in the world and people aren't afraid of anything. But he owns a circus, and his circus isn't doing justice to what he wants. His act isn't scary enough. So he wants to take these dinosaurs and revert them back to their natural instincts. The real looking ones, to really draw the attraction and scare people. That's his whole thing, is that there's too much good and that he wants everything to be full of fear. So basically they get to the end of the movie and he succeeds in his plan and he turns them. They basically go towards the dinosaurs as their evil versions, and they're trying to talk them into believing that they're not good. Evil and they're good. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing is that there's good inside you, and you're not what your outer appearance is. It's basically the plot of the movie, and then they basically snap out of their confusion and go back to being the fun-loving dinos that they were, and then they end up defeating Screw Eyes, that kind of thing. It was a fun little 90s movie.
The introduction to it of the good professor feeds dinosaurs cereal. Excuse me?
Smart cereal. Yeah.
It didn't get great reviews, but as a kid, it's one of those you constantly have to put on.
You eat that up.
Yeah. But yeah, Steven Spielberg.
Brain grain cereal.
Yeah, brain grain. That's what it was, I think. But yeah, Steven Spielberg, he would greenlight anything. And the 90s, full of dino movies. But it wasn't until the year 2000 when Disney really put their stamp on it and came out with the movie Dinosaur. I feel that movie was the building blocks to everything they've done now in terms of CG and compositing and how they're going to do things. Because the lemurs in Dinosaur, this was the first time they made a fur simulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was back when they were in that era of like, if you wanted to make something CG, you had to research and figure it out from scratch.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
So it took them
How
like
many
6 months to
moves?
make the first simulation and then another 6 months to make it work. But
oh
then
wow,
that simulation they used in Monsters Inc.
Oh, for
oh
Sully.
really? I
Yeah.
didn't
So
know
like
that.
this movie was a building block of live action 3D kind of developing scales and fur because then Monsters Inc. just took it to another level. But
Mhm.
obviously it
Yeah.
was more cartoony, but this is
Yeah, but it was still the same
this movie they
processes.
used as definitely a stepping stone to what they've done today.
And the compositing was really impressive too. Like they had done CG in live action before, but to have an entire movie where you shoot real live action sets,
Yeah.
but there's no real characters there is still pretty impressive to mix all that in.
Yeah, they had 5 locations they went to.
Like
So
the
Okay.
they had Florida as a location, they had Venezuela, Australia, they had Hawaii and California that they went to. And so when they went to these locations, they filmed everything what they wanted. And then when they brought it back, there was 2 steps. They brought it back to the animators and they modeled everything in
based
3D
off of the live.
based off the live action.
Whoa.
So they could put the characters in there so they could storyboard how they would
Yeah.
want to do it and then go back out
Oh,
for
and they
part
shot it
2
again.
and then shot so
Oh,
because they had a device where they had the whole movie done in like a rough animation, so they would go back to these set locations where they've marked and they would shoot it exactly like they had in the movie so they can frame it
Yeah.
perfectly and then go back and just composite the dinosaurs in. So
Mhm.
all the stuff you see in this movie, all the plates, all the landscape is all real and they
Yeah.
just composite it in. Sometimes they would composite certain parts of like they had Venezuela and Florida, but they would
They
composite
would
some of the
mix
background as
the
different. They would mix
images
the
together,
landscapes.
but they were still real.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
opening scene when you see the pterodon flying with the egg, that's
Yes.
all Venezuela, and then they cut to parts of Australia. Like it's all the stuff is they went as practical as they could, and then composited the dinos in.
Mhm.
That's one of, I think, my favorite intros to a movie.
It was really good.
I watched it twice. I was like, it's
Yeah.
just
Well, that's what
amazing.
because I saw it for the first time very recently, and yeah,
September,
I was
Ian.
like, wow, this is very recently. I was impressed that that the whole opening, and then even right up to like with the Oviraptor running through the forest. That's at that point, I think I literally stopped and said, I did not realize that this was what this movie is. Like,
Yeah.
I watched it now, and it seemed like it still held up very very well, and I think that all of the ways that they filmed it like that and put in that effort is the reason why it did, because you can't top real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Because it
Exactly.
wouldn't have looked as good if they did CG.
the
There
whole
was a
thing with
couple
CG
CG shots
hmm
like of certain
Yeah.
of
landscapes, but they
motions
had
and
all the reference they needed. But then there was parts at the end when they reached their destination where the
mhm.
dinosaurs were walking through real plates of grass. And it's like,
Yes.
as a compositor, how do you do that? But what they did was because normally everything's on a green screen or a blue screen.
Yeah.
But what they did, they had a big square canvas and some guy was walking behind it, but it was red. So they would like truck it through the grass. So they
Oh,
had their
It was a
plates
red
so they can
screen.
just get rid of the red because green is the opposite of red. So
hmm
they wouldn't have
yes.
any artifacting going on. And then they would just kind of use that as a reference to composite the grass over the dinos.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then they were showing like behind the scenes. I had the behind the scenes on the Blu-ray. Like when they were making the sound design, they were just going to a bunch of zoos, and like these 2
Getting
ladies in a
all
booth were just like making all the sounds of like the slurping and
all
like
the
the rocks they would
Foley,
throw
yeah.
raw everything. They were just it's pretty wild. Like they probably mostly anytime you can get sound effects from real life, it's always going to sound better.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
they went in deep with all the stuff they did to make this movie.
All that hard work was the groundwork for what came after it. So it's
Mhm.
probably took them so long and so much effort, and they had to really think outside the box to get the results that we see on the screen,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
so impressive. Because yeah, I think the movie holds up.
There's a
It's
couple scenes that are noticeable, but like
But
other
yeah,
than that,
it doesn't look like it's real life brand top of
Yeah.
the line today stuff, but it
right,
holds up a lot better than some other things that have come out even later.
yeah.
exactly.
And the dinosaur structure, they rebuilt entire muscle structures so that they connected it to the rig and so they can get the shaking of the skin and like the trembling when the dinosaurs walked and stuff. So they did make that advancement in terms of how the model would look on screen. But when they were animating, it was like for Bruton and they showed Aladar, it was like section chunks. It looked like a dinosaur, but it didn't have any of like the skin. It was like basic polygons, like shapes. Like if you were to make a Lego figure and put it together like back in the day, that's what it looked like. And they animated it like that. And then it kind of looked, I don't know how they did anything back in the day with those computers.
It took you 20 hours to render the frame, and then you come back tomorrow. It's like, oh no, that didn't turn out.
Yeah, and they had painters going in, like, because they to paint all the dinos, but they started with 2D drawings to get the characters what they would look like, and then they would make 3D maquettes, like clay models, so they could look at it in 3D, and then they would take those models and someone would model them. Yeah. But in the 90s, how do you even make that work?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Computers can barely make things function today, unless you got like the top of the line. But like Windows 96, there's no way that wasn't crashing.
Yeah. Now, did they for the scales or skin texture? Was that a texture? Was that a texture map, or was it like? How did they do that?
So there was texture, but then they would paint on the color and certain details, kind of like they did with Tarzan. They would paint on the 3D trunks of the trees when he was going through. So they had the model, but then they had like, the base texture map is what they call it in the industry. And then they would paint on the colors to give them that look.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cause I was like, it doesn't like nothing looks, there's no clipping. There's no, you see like a squash and stretch. Yeah. And it looked good. And I was just curious. Well, even the lemurs' faces, you saw like some of that pulling. There's none of like that subsurface scattering that we have now to make it look real.
Ambient occlusion, which would help with the fur, because like the fur looked really good, but because they didn't have that proper lighting where it's lighter on top and darker as you go down.
Yeah,
that kind of stands out.
They couldn't do that then.
Right.
Yeah, because technically the first live action character ever created was Jar Jar Binks. Speaking of Star Wars, was the year before.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So that's what they were going off of. And when they were showing the director, because they were trying to get the dinosaurs to emote, so that now it's called blend shapes. When you're blending, you model the face in a certain way, and then you blend it into another. That's how they kind of do things for like mouth movements and like facial expressions. They had the basic form of that, so they could pick certain facial expressions to help them emote and like do simple. So the director could see see how they would talk and how they would express emotion. So that's how they would kind of greenlight that. And
I think I've seen videos of Aladar doing like like opening his mouth. I remember from like the cut, the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But then they would have to manually go in and do all of the in betweens, right?
Yeah.
To get it to flow rather than the computer taking care of it.
I mean, it did have like it does that now, but they did have a little bit of that. But like that was just a stepping stone to like actually going in and animating. Like they wanted just to show the director what these rigs could actually do.
Gotcha.
So they modeled them like that, and they can click between the faces so the director can see what was going on.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And in this movie, basically the opening, you get the egg, right?
Yeah.
And then the Carnotaur comes, wreaks havoc.
Yeah.
The pterodon picks up the egg and it goes on a journey. The opening scene, just like we talked about, is so cool. Really then it ends up in a forest, and the lemurs pick it up, and it turns out, the lemurs adopt the baby Aladar.
Yep.
And he grows up. But there's a scene when they're at the mating tree.
Yes.
And so all the lemurs are trying to figure out who they're going to spend the rest of their life with. It's a great scene. And then all of a sudden, we get the meteor that killed all the dinosaurs. Not like eventually.
It was their demise.
Yeah. But the way they did this, the explosions were all real. So
I was watching that. That's really cool.
They would explode, do a bunch of explosions, then composite them together. But one of the big mushroom cloud, like when the smoke would pillow across the ocean, they filmed it upside down. So when they flipped it, it would like carry across. So they had that flatness.
Instead of coming up, it would look like it was spreading.
Spreading across into so they flipped it, but then the colorist would just turn it red because obviously the smoke they were using was white. So then they would color it and make it look like an actual explosion. And then they would use flares and fireworks and stuff to get, because they wanted the explosion as much as the meteor was the thing. The dinosaurs didn't know, so they wanted to make the cloud and the fire and everything the monster, is what they called it in the movie.
Yeah.
So they used all the flares. The scene when Aladar's running away with his family on top of him.
Yeah.
They were using obviously they were in a Jeep, but they were filming like that. So it was like a live action plate, and they were shooting down flares on like a string into like a garbage pail. So then it would explode. So they would act like, so when you see it in the movie, Aladar's like running from these bits of meteor, and they're exploding on the ground, but they did all that practical.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Even the cliff, they built a miniature cliff because one of the guys was like, yeah, you can't just go around blowing up cliffs. So they built a miniature cliff so they can composite their flares and explosions into the movie. So it would, so all the explosions were real. They said the toughest shot in the movie was getting that one POV shot of the explosion going towards the hill. They said that was the toughest shot.
Yeah.
To act like the monster was coming, you know?
When I watched it again, I remembered every single beat of that intro up until the end of the meteor hitting when they had to like go away. I don't know why, but that was, how long was that? That was like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was 20 minutes.
Time, yeah.
I remembered every single beat of that. I remembered like the oviraptors like trying to get the egg, and then the mom kind of swatting it away. Like and then the
Stegosaurus, and then the Triceratops going in the water, and then like it bouncing between them because they were drinking.
Exactly. Like I don't know why that stuck in my brain so well, but I was like, oh, that's next, and it's just a sure thing. Like every time, I thought that's how you do a good. See, that's a good scene.
Yeah.
If you can remember it 20 years later,
just that initial scene before he even hatches. I think it also has to do with the music.
Yes.
The music in this movie is great.
It's that old school full orchestra. It's like triumphant and happy and adventurous, which we don't really see nowadays. We have different variations on that.
And if they want it, they call the same couple guys who did it back in the day.
Exactly.
You know? But yeah, definitely the soundtrack had an aid, and plus it was so immersive, right?
Yeah.
It kicked off right away. You knew exactly what we were getting into. They kicked off with the dinosaurs, and it was just a 7-minute sequence of back to back to back of things happening, basically how dinosaurs would live in the real world.
Yeah.
But the Carnotaurs, I think the Carnotaurs are one of the coolest parts in the movie.
Yeah. And that was a good choice they made to not just go with the Rex again.
They're like, how do we make a T-Rex cooler?
Give him
horns. But I think one of my favorite scenes, I think the scene that looks the best towards the end of the movie is the scene in the rain.
Yes.
When they're at night in the cave.
Yes.
That one really did a good job.
And then when the Carnotaur's on the outside and he comes peeking through and the water splashing off, because a couple of times they did use animatronic parts.
Yeah.
Because there's the scene in the desert when they're trying to find water. And I don't know if you guys spotted this when the Brachiosaur pushes down. That's an actual.
Oh,
they built a foot because there's no way they could have composited the water, or like it wrapped around the nails in the shadows perfectly. So they built this massive foot, and obviously they used the press to press it in, and then the water formed around it, and then they layered the dino over top.
That makes.
But they used a lot of cool tricks to blend the CG well.
Everything.
Yeah, because that look, I thought like that's stupid good.
Yeah,
it's like they can't even do that now that well.
Yeah. What I am glad though that after Jurassic World, even though the other two movies weren't as good as the first, they are using a lot more practical dinos in terms of just straight CG, because people can tell the difference when it's just a CG dino compared to a mix.
Yeah. I think that's the best thing is the mix. You have animatronics that are accented with CG.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like the T-Rex in the second Jurassic World
when they're breathing.
Yeah,
like when she's sitting
in the truck.
Yeah,
that's so cool. But that's why Jurassic Park holds up so much, because of the animatronics they use to make it believable, like the Triceratops and the T-Rex parts, and they kind of mixing them together with the 3D.
Yep. And in your head, you remember how real it looked when it was animatronic, and so you can kind of excuse and like forget the details of when it's CG and maybe doesn't look 100% as real. But it's like if it's just a flash between A and B, it kind of all just seems like one big thing.
And as a kid, you don't really notice the difference because you're already that dinosaur is real. So anytime you're seeing a wide shot, that's still the same dinosaur you saw in the previous scene. You're
not sitting there saying, oh, that shot's CG, that one's not. Here's the CG model. It's just, all right, now the dinosaur's moving, and it's,
Ian, from someone who just saw it, and to Nick, who's someone who saw it years ago and then now, what is your favorite part of the movie?
I really like that water part. Yeah, the whole part in the cave. And then when they're trying to escape after, I thought it was really well done. I thought it worked with their story. It had some character moments. Then they're like trying to escape at the end. It had like a lot of tension, but yeah, it looked really well, especially for being a nighttime dark scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like that has the potential to really kind of wash it all out. And I thought it looked really good.
When they blast through the wall, I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it was basically Aladar trying to, like, they don't believe in themselves anymore because obviously his crew that he ends up with, they're older dinosaurs. So he sticks around with them because he wants them to make it, because the raptors are following them, the carnivores are following them. They blast through this wall and they end up, basically like the Land Before Time. The Great Valley is where they're going.
Yes. That scene is awesome because, well, hold on. Let's start with the whole urgency of the movie.
Yeah.
We don't just have like one enemy. We don't have one antagonist. We have essentially three. We have the raptors, we have the carnivores, and we have the fact that they have to make it to their nesting grounds or they're all gonna die.
Yeah. There's also no water.
There's no water.
There's no for miles.
There's no water, no food, no anything.
Yeah. So the sense of urgency in this movie, I think, was super, super high. And for me, this made the movie move so quickly, but at such a good pace. And then when we get to the end, when they're busting through that wall, and what's the brachiosaur's name?
Ema, I think.
Ema, yeah. When she kind of bends down to Aladar and says, like, I'm actually insulted that you don't think we can do this.
Baleen is she's not a three-horn, but she's a partner of the Triceratops.
But not an exact.
And then Ema is the brachiosaur.
Yeah. I love that scene. I think that is one of the top scenes in the movie because, well, yeah, it's coming to a close. We're concluding, and Aladar's finally realizing that everything that he's done to stick around and help these older dinosaurs is actually paying off, and they're going to succeed. But for me, really, I think it's the intro.
Yeah. Also at that point, though, he thinks they're never going to make it.
Right.
Because, they just lost Bruton.
Exactly.
To the Carnotaur, and Bruton sacrificed himself, and the Carnotaurs kind of dropped. But then one lived. Yes. But then they got to a dead end. They're like, what are we going to do? Like, we're separated from the herd.
Yep.
We're running out of time because our crew's not going to make it. They're definitely not going to make it.
Yeah.
And then when they finally do make it to the other side, they notice that the way in is blocked. So then they're definitely not making it.
Yeah.
It's one roadblock after another. And then that's when, Aladar's like, I gotta just stand up to this Carnotaur and
I love that scene when they're all rowing back at it and they go by. So good. The scene when they're fighting on the rock, it also looks so good because it's all real and they composite it in. But I love the final, how they get rid of him and they knock him off the ledge.
Yes.
Anytime a T-Rex falls off of something, it's iconic because it's like you got the Land Before Time. They did that then. But yeah, anytime they fall down a cliff, it's the end.
It's classic. It's a classic defeat of the villain.
Yeah. And then they kind of end it the same way they started it, right? With the family and the eggs hatching and like,
yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a nice symmetry.
Seeing a bunch of dinos survive is always a plus.
And then like the intrusive thought in my head as soon as it's finishing is like, they're still all going to die.
Yeah. They don't survive here until modern times, but
yeah.
But their skeletons do.
Yeah.
Didn't they find one a couple years ago? I feel like they found another one. They found the first dinosaur they actually found was Iguanodon, Aladar's kind, because they were known for surrounding most of the world. Mm-hmm. So they were one of the first they've ever found to dig up.
That's so cool. I want to know what an actual Iguanodon looked like.
Yeah.
Like, did it have scales? Did it have
probably
feathers? Did it have a combination?
I think what they're at right now is that the herbivore type ones did have scaly sort of skin like that, but a lot of the carnivores, like the sauropods, they all had some sort of feather coat, even if it was just like a furry sort of
like a
But
downy.
yeah, but I don't think that was a thing with the herbivores because they were a different species, not like a genus or whatever. Like it's
They're a different branch.
the carnivores were related to modern birds, but
Yeah.
the herbivores were not.
Gotcha. So maybe even their interpretation of it is close to what it might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. Besides the Velociraptor and the T-Rex, like they're not having feathers just for the purpose of movies. Like I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure everything else was to the exact of the
Like
skeletons
they would
dug
look
up.
a lot like an elephant or something's skin. Like
Right. Leathery. Yeah. I loved how you could distinguish all of the iguanodons apart.
yeah, they did a really good job with all the coloring and all that kind of stuff.
Nice subtleties in just like the facial structures, the colors, the size even. So what's Aladar's girlfriend's name?
Nira.
Nira. Yeah, even the difference in so when they were walking side by side, Aladar had this like swoop in the neck up, and then his head was quite a bit like chunkier, and Nira's was very like flowy going down the back of the neck. So even without seeing their faces or their coloring, and you just saw a silhouette, you'd know the difference.
And then even Karan and Bruton looked
The way that they had the little nose flips,
Yes.
and even just the set of their mouth, like how it was like angled down more. Yeah, they were very distinct despite being somewhat similar.
Yeah, this movie definitely stands up still today, even the story wise for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely, the story.
Everything about it, I liked when I saw it.
Ian, I don't think you knew. Like I kept talking to you about this for years.
I just was like, no, that one wasn't for me. Yeah.
And then when I came down a couple months ago, and I was like, we're watching this because we're going to talk about it eventually, and you have to watch it.
You can't
like,
not
let's watch
see it.
And then at the end, what did you say when you was done? You're like, like I don't know why I missed this.
I have no idea why I didn't watch this. It was great. Yeah, I don't. It was just, it just became a thing I never ended up seeing.
That was me with Christopher Robin.
Yeah.
See, the problem with when people tell you to watch things, they don't want to watch them.
Yeah.
Because if someone's bringing it up a lot, it's like, okay, I don't want to watch this anymore. You know, you're getting under my skin.
Yeah. Well, and that's why you watched it with me, so I had to.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But like it could also be like the nostalgia factor, like clouding my memory. But it's still solid.
It still holds up. It's so good.
With movies like Dinosaur and Jurassic Park laying the foundation, years later we have Jurassic World, but now we have the confirmation they're doing more Jurassic Park.
Yes.
And they're bringing it to us again. There's another Jurassic Park, and Gareth Edwards is doing Jurassic Park.
What?
I didn't know that.
Yep.
I knew the screenwriter. I didn't know the director. No way.
He signed on. Yep.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's really good news. Because
they announced that the other day. Yeah, because he said he dropped everything that he had planned. He's like, I'm doing Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Wow.
So just to have his vision, because I even think they said that they're bringing it back to where it was, but they're not going to be continuing. It's a brand new start to Jurassic World. I don't know what they're calling it. They haven't announced what it is. But yeah, he was announced, I think, only 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't see that at all. I just saw I don't remember if it was David Coep or one of the screenwriters or producer or somebody that they announced was worked
the
on the originals. Yeah.
That's so cool.
February 20th. Yep.
Is when
Gareth Edwards' Jurassic 4 is set to start filming on the 31st of July, 2024.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Is great news.
So I think it's June 2026 is when it's going to come out.
Nice.
But Gareth Edwards, let me tell you.
That is amazing.
He learned so much from doing Godzilla, which is still my favorite American Godzilla, 2014, out of the three. Yep. And just his take on that. And then I haven't seen The Creator, but what he did with The Creator, I can't wait to see what he does with Jurassic Park.
And I don't know, like there was a whole bunch of, because he was Rogue One, right?
Yes.
Like there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Who knows what's what? But at the end of the day, Rogue One is like in the running for one of my favorite Star Wars movies, has my favorite scenes in it.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, that's saying something.
Yeah, because on February 21st, he did an interview and he said he dropped everything to direct the new Jurassic Park.
That is amazing.
So let's be real. We got a great
This is going
It's
to
a
be good.
fresh start, because the Jurassic World movies, they kind of bounce between the same two directors, right?
Mhm.
The first one and then the second one was a different one, and then they went back to Colin Trevorrow for the third,
Yeah.
I think.
Yes.
But yeah, the third one was horrendous. I'm not
No,
even gonna.
I love the first one, which just made it so much worse that the other two were the 2 was underwhelming and 3 was not good at all.
Yeah, 3
And
had good scenes, but it just didn't.
didn't
It
have
didn't
a
do
good
much.
movie at all.
Yeah,
And they took characters and used them in ways they shouldn't have. But the first one I thought did a really, really good job. Its ending scene is one of my favorites too.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're bringing it back.
That's
Gareth
cool.
Edwards. They brought somebody on who knows what they're doing. This is what we've been talking about. You don't hire first time directors to do this. You hire someone who has the experience, especially Godzilla, especially. Like, he's handled that perfectly, bringing it over. He knows he started out as a special effects guy just by himself.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, with his movie Monster.
And it's somebody who wants to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just someone who, okay, yeah, fine, I'll do it. He said he dropped everything to, like, you want somebody who has that passion for this kind of material. You don't need somebody who's super passionate to make a random rom-com. You can get any director. But this kind of stuff, you need somebody who wants to do it right for it to end up, like, being amazing.
What do you think they have to do for this next movie to kind of separate it, or do they need to bring it back to how the series started? Like, do they need the tension and the fear factor, as well as this fantastical, like, do we need to have like the dinos and the humans teaming up again, like Blue? Like, do you think they need to just separate it all and just do dinosaurs being scary?
Bring them back to being more animalistic.
Yes. Yeah. Not putting the human characteristics in them as much. And on top of that, the humans need to actually fear them. Like, fear them, not just be like, oh, we can kind of control them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or even just like the regular people who would be walking by and see like a brachiosaur up there. Or it's like, you need to bring back the awe that, like that first brachiosaur scene where it's literal, like, it cannot believe their eyes at what is going on.
Mm-hmm. I think they should stay away from a park.
Yes.
They've done that enough. Where they're secluding them in a park. I think they just need to, almost like Jurassic 3, where they go to an island, like it needs to be somewhere. 2
or 3.
Yeah.
They both end up, you have reasons to go to where they are. Like, and that goes back to even like the King Kong sort of style of like you going to this island and it's filled with things. But it's not a park. It's not something that's gone wrong. And it's not an allegory for some other sort of like social breakout. It's just, this is the adventure featuring these characters.
Because realistically, Jurassic Park is just a story of really bad decisions by humans and the consequences of that.
And you can see it's just karma coming due. It's all the things that go wrong in that movie in the park were intentional. Oh, not intentional, but they were like, side effects that you could tell that were clearly from the poor choices that had been made by individuals.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to simplify it. Bring it back to, we don't need cloning.
No.
We just need a simple dinosaur thriller.
Fewer dinosaurs. Like, as great as it is to have them, there was 5 different species in the first movie, and there was only 3 that you really got to see.
The mystery. We need the mystery back.
Mm-hmm.
But Gareth Edwards is definitely the man to do it.
That is,
I'm glad
they good news.
I'm glad they went to someone who, because I feel like they knew Dominion did not do what they wanted, and I feel like they want to keep this franchise alive, but restart it, like revamp it, kind of like Jurassic World did, what the first one did. But we're definitely on the right path with the director. Agree. But this has definitely been a fun journey back to the Cretaceous period, talking about everything we grew up with, everything we love about dinosaurs, all the stuff we watched. And I want you guys to comment below your favorite dinosaur, your favorite Jurassic Park movie. If you're looking forward to the new one, if you grew up with Land Before Time, grew up with any of the cartoons we mentioned, let us know below.
If you're a fan of Denver.
Yeah, fan of Denver. Let us rock out in the comments. I want to thank Ian. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Bring your dinosaur knowledge.
Try to.
So this has been 2 Hours on a Sunday. I'm Brian.
I'm Nick.
And we'll catch you guys later.